Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Women's Soccer / Football Podcast. I am your host, Bryce, and it's an awesome honor and privilege to have you join me here today to celebrate the World of Woso and all of the wonderful things that go down in it. But before we get into the episode today, I want to note the green shirt that I am wearing today. For those of you who don't know, March 25th is National Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day. And March happens to be Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month. So in order to help bring awareness, I'm wearing a green shirt today and also tagging myself on Instagram and a couple of other social media platforms with the hashtag #GoGreenForCP. If any of you feel so inclined to do the same or want to bring awareness to this day, I highly encourage you all to do the same as well. And speaking of social media platforms, this is a good segue. If you guys like what you're hearing, seeing, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, or whatever you do to support your podcast, YouTube channels, and the like. And if you want more extensive content, feel free to check out our TikTok and Instagram pages. I'll link all of that down in the description below for your viewing pleasure. So with all that down, let's get into the show. So to kind of kick off our big headlines for this episode, we're going to talk about the U.S. Women's National Team April camp roster that Vlatko ended up putting out just the other day. Who's all on it? So for the goalkeepers, Vlatko has taken with him Alyssa Nair, Casey Murphy, and Jane Campbell. For the defenders, he's taken Alana Cook, Midge Purse, Kelly O'Hara, Abby Kemper, Becky Sauerbrunn, make sure I'm not missing anything, Crystal Dunn, Emily Sonnet, and Tierna Davidson, if I haven't said her already. And then for the midfielders, we've got Julie Ertz, Lindsay Horan, Rose Lavelle, Katerina Macario, Christy Muis, and her sister Sam Muis. Then in the forward line, we've got Carly Lloyd, Alex Morgan, Kristen Press, Megan Rapinoe, Sophia Smith, and Lynn Williams. So that makes up the roster that Vlatko is going to end up taking to the two friendlies in the month of April. For those of you who don't know, the U.S. Women's National Team is going to be playing twice in the month of April. First on April 10th against Sweden, which I'm really geared up and excited for. And then the second match will just be a few days later on April 13th, and they'll be taking on France. Both fixtures will take place over in Europe, which makes a ton of sense because the U.S. have been kind of alternating between having a tournament or playing matches domestically, and then they go over abroad. So really excited for those two matches, especially since Sweden and France, if I'm not mistaken, are both top 10 teams according to the FIFA World Rankings. And I'm excited for the U.S. to have some tough tests, especially leading up to the Summer Olympics, which as of right now are still happening. So hooray for that. What are some general thoughts and observations from the roster? A few things that stick out to me is Tobin Heath must still be injured. On previous episodes, I've talked about, will Vlatko take Tobin into camp? I thought that maybe there was a chance because when the fixtures begin, it'll be right around when Tobin is fully recovered from her injury, or is supposed to be recovered from her injury. I'm guessing that her injury recovery hasn't progressed enough ahead of these friendlies, so Vlatko probably just said, stay home, rest up, and then we'll get you in for May, June camp if you're feeling healthy enough, which makes a ton of sense when you've got one of the best wingers in the world in Tobin Heath. You don't want to risk her re-aggravating a major injury like she's undergone. So I don't blame him at all. Of course, we'll miss seeing Tobin and her creativity in these friendlies, but the big games are going to come for the Summer Olympics. So I'd rather have a very healthy, recovered Tobin Heath this summer than for two friendlies leading up to it. Second thought I had, really cool to see Christy Muis back in the roster once again. I think she fully deserves to be in the roster because she has been playing lights out pretty much in every match she's played. If I am not mistaken, with the exception of maybe one match where she only played like 7 minutes in the She Believes Cup, I believe she has either scored or assisted in every match she's played in 2021. So she's making a really good case for herself if she continues to play well against Sweden and France, that she should be in the Olympic roster coming this summer. So I think these two games are going to be huge for her, and they're going to tell a lot about her ability going forward. I think she's on form, and she has been for the last year, and I expect that to continue. So she will be my player to watch for these two friendlies, but that's just one guy's opinion. So another thing I noticed is that Katerina Macario is in the roster. I was speculating in previous episodes whether or not she was going to be there because of the fact that France, or at least the French league, has different COVID restrictions due to international things and pandemic stuff, right? And I didn't know if Olympique Lyonnais or PSG were going to let their players participate in international games. It looks like they are, so we'll see Catarina Macario in the lineup, which I'm excited to see younger players get reps, especially with the likes of Macario. And in my opinion, she's competing for an Olympic spot, so these reps are huge for her, and we'll see how that ends up panning out. And which is that's actually a good segue because Alana Cook is another thought and observation I had on. Same situation with Catarina Macario. I wasn't sure if Alana Cook was going to be coming into the roster, whether it be for if Vlatko still had his eye on her, or if PSG was going to let her travel and play despite the COVID restrictions that are in France. So really pumped to see Alana Cook in there because I think she has a decent shot of making the Olympic roster for this summer. I am wondering if the COVID restrictions for the French league, or at least in France, are not as restrictive if they're playing over in Europe, because the fact of the matter is France and Sweden are not too far away at all, obviously, because Alana Cook and Catarina Macario both play in France, so no travel restrictions needed there. And Sweden's just down the way by a few hours, if I'm not mistaken. Or if my geography, proficiency is off, that could very well be too. So maybe there's light restrictions, and that's why their teams are letting them come over, because maybe they don't have to quarantine. That's neither here nor there. Really, the point is they're here, and I'm really pumped that they're going to be able to play and get some reps in. Speaking of youth and the future of the team, really excited that despite Tobin Heath not being able to participate in camp for April, that Sophia Smith is getting another call up and another shot to get some more reps in. I think between her, Macario, Cook, Davidson, they're all the future of the squad, and I'll even throw in Jane Campbell in there. I think they're all going to be taking up the majority of minutes in the squad as the years go down. I'm a little torn on Jane Campbell in that aspect, but hypothetically speaking, they're going to be the future in a team that's starting to age quite a bit. I mean, the forward line, I think the average age is around 30, if not more, between Rapinoe, Lloyd, Press, Heath, Morgan. All of them are above the age of 30. And Lynn Williams is starting to get close to that point, too. I believe Lynn Williams is 27, 28, just around that range. So I think it's really important for younger forwards like Sophia Smith to get in those reps and get an opportunity, because after the golden age of our forwards and starts to retire and leave, who knows who's going to take up the mantle. Of course, the United States has always had a good history of producing world-class forwards, including Abby Wambach, Mia Hamm, Alex Morgan, Carly Lloyd, etc. and so forth. You could say Carly Lloyd is more of a world-class midfielder, but as her career has transgressed, she has certainly become a forward, which makes a ton of sense. But time will tell, and we'll see how that ends up going. Maybe as time goes on, there'll be some opportunity for Mallory Pugh in there. I'm not surprised she wasn't picked into camp. In fact, I would say that this is probably an indicator that she is completely out of the picture for the Summer Olympics, which I think might be a good wake-up call for her, because I guess I should rephrase, maybe not a good wake-up call, maybe just a realization like, hey, I've been injured a lot. I've got to really start to prove myself to work my way back into the squad. And overall, I think it's going to be really good for her in the long run, because the greatest of athletes overcome the greatest adversity, and I would count this as overcoming adversity. So should be really, really exciting. I'm really pumped to see Mallory Pugh play over the next course of 4 or 5 years to see if she breaks back into the squad, how she does for the Chicago Red Stars, if she can stay healthy. That's the main thing. And of course, I wish her all the best, and I hope she stays healthy, because that's just supporting people in general. It's just something I like to do. Plus, my hot take was that the Chicago Red Stars would win the title this year, so I also have that writing on it, but who's to say? Other impressions from the lineup, not really a whole lot. One thing I want to touch on is Ashlyn Harris and Allie Krueger aren't in the lineup. I am guessing it's because they are still kind of adjusting to life with their brand new baby Sloan. For those of you who don't know or might have missed previous episodes, Ashlyn Harris and Allie Krueger adopted a baby girl who was born not too long ago, I believe 6 weeks-ish ago. So obviously when you are new parents in the world, that takes a lot of adjusting, and I'm guessing they're still adjusting to all of that. So no football for them right now, and I totally don't blame them at all. I can't imagine what it's like bringing a new child into the world, and raising it. That's just wow, that's just wild. But um, one other thing I want to touch on too, Tierna Davidson has made it into the lineup again. Just kind of going off of my theme for this conversation, talking about youth in the squad because, like I said, Tierna Davidson. I actually Midge Purse. I should mention Midge Purse in there as well. Alana Cook, Jane Campbell, Katarina Macario, Sophia Smith, all these players are going to be taking up the mantle eventually. So I think it's really key that they get in these reps and at least see some international opportunity. So I'm really excited to see all of them in this list, and the more the merrier. So we'll see how it goes. Not really a whole ton of surprises in the lineup in general, kind of just transitioning a little bit. There's nobody in this lineup where I'm like, oh my gosh, I am completely shocked they're in it. Everybody who's in this lineup, I pretty much expected to some degree to be in it. The only things I wasn't really sure of overall was the timeline of Tobin Heath's injury, which has become clear now. She's just not ready to play and she's not fit enough, which totally get it, totally understandable. And then the other question mark was Ashlyn Harris and Allie Krueger, given their new situation, like I just mentioned. But with their absence, it's really cool to see more players get more reps and Vlatko to see more players overall. How do I feel the defender situation has progressed over the last few months? I don't really think that it's progressed a ton. I think Vlatko is still trying to figure out which 5 or 6 defenders he's going to take with him to the Olympics. It goes to show here because out of all the groups that he picked between goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and forwards, Vlatko grabbed the most defenders for this April camp. He took 8, which is a lot, and the next highest group was 6. And he took 6 midfielders and 6 forwards each, so he's probably still ironing some things out. And it's probably, what makes it really even more interesting is that if Allie Krueger and Ashlyn Harris were ready to come back to football, who would have been left off of the defenders list? Who's to say? One thing I guess if I had one wish list in this roster, it would have been really cool to see Casey Krueger get another appearance in camp, but that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. She came in as an alternate. I guess not really as an alternate, might not be the best term, but she was picked after the fact for the She Believes Cup, and she put in a really great performance, and I wish I could see her play again, but as of right now, that doesn't seem to be the case. So I know a really popular argument among the fandom is, who do you pick, Emily Sonnet or Casey Krueger? And a lot of people say Casey Krueger, and I haven't watched Casey Krueger enough to really definitively make that argument for myself. So I know a lot of the fandom lies on the side of the line with Casey Krueger. And from what I saw in the She Believes Cup, I really don't blame y'all because she's a great player and she's done great things for the Red Stars and in the NWSL and for the US Women's National Team in the past. So food for thought there as the future progresses. Maybe she'll even get more opportunities down the road. And who knows, Vlatko could bring her in as a wild card when none of us expect it. So not a whole ton of surprises in the lineup, about what I expected it to be. And I think that the U.S. is going to have a lot of great success when it comes to them facing off against Sweden and France. Who do I think has the most to not really prove, but to gain from these friendlies? I think Christy Muis is the main person I'm going to be watching in that respect. I think that a lot of this is really riding on the fact that it's like, who do you pick between her and Macario? That's the debate I've been having in my head, but it's just Christy Muis has been playing so well that it's like I would not be surprised if Vlatko took her to the Olympics at all. And if she plays well against Sweden and France, I think that greatly strengthens, if not solidifies, the argument that she should be in the Olympic roster. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think of the April camp roster. Any surprises on the list for you? Who do you think has the most to gain from these friendlies? Feel free to jump down in the comments below and just let me know what your thoughts are. All right, so with the U.S. Women's National Team April camp down and out of the way, let's get into the next topic. All right, so for this topic, we're going to kind of transition from U.S. Women's National Team football over to international football, so kind of getting that international parallel there. ESPN FC released a list this week detailing what they believe are the top 50 women's footballers in the world as of right now. And as a courtesy, I'm going to go through all the way from 50 down to 1 who all the players are. However, I'll probably only comment on 10 through 20 as a whole, because if I commented on all 50 players, we'd be here a while, and I don't want to put y'all through that, so just kind of bear with me. Here is ESPN FC's top 50 women's footballers in the world as of right now. So, starting with 50, we've got Ellen White of Manchester City. We've, at 49, Jackie Groenen of Manchester United. 48, Danielle Van de Donk of Arsenal. 47, Kosavari Aslani of Real Madrid. 46, Steph Houghton of Manchester City. 45, Becky Sauerbrunn of the Portland Thorns. 44, Lena Gosling of Wolfsburg. 43, Iwa Payor of Wolfsburg. Come on, computer. Beth England. 42, Chelsea. 41, Cristiana Garelli of Juventus. 40, Megan Rapinoe of OL Reign. 39, Kim Little, Arsenal. 38, Alex Morgan, Orlando Pride. 37, Melanie Leupolz, Chelsea. 36, Kadiatou Diani, PSG. 35, one of the GOATs, Marta of the Orlando Pride. 34, Magdalena Eriksson of Chelsea. 33, Kadisha Buchanan of Lyon. 32, Amel Majri, Lyon. 31, Khadija Shah of Bordeaux. 30, Christiane Endler of PSG. 29, Abidel Kemper of Manchester City. 28, Lika Martins of Barcelona. 27, Asisat Oshola of Barcelona. 26, Kristen Press of Manchester United. 25, Caroline Weir of Manchester City. 24, Alex Pop of Wolfsburg. 23, Lindsay Horan of the Portland Thorns. 22, Alexia Putellas of Barcelona. 21, Delphine Cascarino of Lyon. 20, Eugénie Le Sommer of Lyon. 19, Marie Antoinette Katoto of PSG. 18, Ji So-yoon of Chelsea. 17, Jennifer Hermoso of Barcelona. 16, Amadine Henry of Lyon. 15, Rose Lavelle, Manchester City. 14, Saki Kumagai of Lyon. 13, Tobin Heath of Manchester United. 12, Fran Kirby of Chelsea. 11, Wendy Renard of Lyon. 10, Dabinia of the North Carolina Courage. 9, Caroline Graham Hansen of Barcelona. 8, Julie Ertz of the Chicago Red Stars. 7, Jennifer Morotzen of Lyon. 6, Crystal Dunn, Portland Thorns. 5, Lucy Bronze, Manchester City. 4, Pernille Harder of Chelsea. 3, Vivian Miedema of Arsenal. Number 2, Sam Kerr of Chelsea. And last but not least, number 1, the best women's footballer in the world as of right now, according to ESPN FC, Sam Muis. Wow, what a list, am I right? So, by and large, this list I have very few problems with. I think for the most part, they got the top 10 right. There are some players I probably would have interchanged in the top 20 just a little bit. But let me just say this. The fact that Sam Muis is put in this list at number 1 as one of the best players in the world, I absolutely love it, because this is a bit selfish on my part, but I've been saying for the last couple months, Sam Muis is now transformed into one of the best players and midfielders in the world. And it's cool to see that big awards like this or big committees like this are seeing that too, because then it makes me feel like I know something, I guess. But the fact that Sam Muis is number 1, it just shows her rise to power over the last 2 years. In 2019, she wasn't really a prolific starter, I guess you could say, in the World Cup, and now she has transcended everybody and just shot all the way up the world rankings, and justifiably so. She can do everything as a midfielder. She's really tall. She's got this great heading ability that can be very valuable for clearing corners or scoring from set pieces. She's got a powerful shot. You can rely on her to take a set piece if you need her to, and you can rely on her to score goals for your squad consistently. And she does it for club, she does it for country, she does it in America, she does it in England, she does it everywhere, and it's fantastic to see. And she does it in big competitions, small competitions, no matter what obstacles she faces. Sam Muis is consistently playing well and against the best competition in the world. So it's not really a big surprise to me that Sam Muis ended up number one on this list, and I think it is justifiably so. The other really exciting thing I really loved about the top 10, and I'm so happy to finally see it come true, is Crystal Dunn is in the top 10. She has been underrated forever. Like, I seriously think, and I've said this before, that Crystal Dunn will go down as one of the most talented, versatile players in the history of women's football. She can play world class at a few different positions across the pitch. You can put her in the forward line and she's going to do crazy things for you. You can put her in the defensive back line, she'll do crazy things for you. You can have her play center mid, she will do crazy things for you. I wouldn't doubt if you put it in goalkeeper that she would probably also do crazy things for you. So Crystal Dunn has performed super consistently and super admirably over the last 5, 6 years, and again across different countries too. When she played over at Chelsea and now in America, she's doing very, very well, and she continues to shine. Same situations as Sam Muis, big stages, small stages, good competition, weak competition. No matter what she does everything super, super well, and she continues to just get better and prove why she should be in the top 10. If we put her in the top 5, I wouldn't even doubt it too. I actually wouldn't have had a problem if Lucy Bronze and Crystal Dunn moved up a spot and Pernille Harder was in the 6th spot. I think Pernille Harder for me is just a little too high on this list. Just a little too high. Like, if Pernille Harder was 6 and Lucy Bronze and Crystal Dunn were 4 and 5 respectively, I would be okay with that too. I'm not like up in arms about Pernille Harder being 4 because she's one of the best in the world, but I think as of right now today, Lucy Bronze and Crystal Dunn have had a little bit more to show for the fruits of their labor. So that's just my little nitpick, I guess, on the top 10 as well. I'm really happy to see Vivian Miedema in the top 3 because I think she has been one of the most, kind of like Crystal Dunn, one of the most unsung players in women's football over the last few years. I mean, Viv, she's on track to win the Golden Boot Award for the WSL for the 3rd year in a row. It's like, what else does she have to do to prove that she's one of the world's best? And plus, she continues to perform for the Netherlands, and I wouldn't doubt it if she became their all-time leading scorer one day as well. She's been doing all of this, and she's only 24. So it's amazing. She'll be number one day. There's no doubt in my mind she will be number one on a list like this someday. And I can't wait to see when that comes into the fold, because it's going to be super exciting for all of us and for admirers of Vivian Miedema like myself. So there's that as well. I am okay right now with her being at the 3rd spot. If you switched her and Sam Kerr, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that either. Not to say that Sam Kerr hasn't been performing this year, because as of late, she has been just lights out for Chelsea. And I think that's really kind of helped her stock in this list as well. So that's also something to kind of keep in mind. Another really exciting thing that I love about this list is Dabinia is in the top 10. She has eclipsed what I thought she deserved for a while now, but it's really cool to see that Dabinia is getting the recognition for basically being the lifeblood of the North Carolina Courage for the last few years, at least in attack. She does this great job of facilitating play, not only at the club level, but at the international level as well. For the She Believes Cup, she facilitated quite a bit of play for Brazil. Her and Marta came together to be this midfield duo that could accomplish a lot together. And it's really cool to see that a lot of that it's being recognized now, and that she like the support for her being one of the world's best, the argument is there. So that also, it's just really exciting to see. Kind of transitioning a little bit more in from the 10 through the 20th spots in this list. I am super happy that Fran Kirby is as high as she is at 12. However, I could make a case she probably should have been in the top 10. She has been stunning the last about year, and at least this season for the WSL. She's just been playing out of her mind. She's top 5 in both goals and assists in the league, and the same goes for Sam Kerr as well. But Fran Kirby is doing something that's just so admirable in terms of a talent level. It's just when you watch her play, you're like, wow, Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea is a great team. Without Fran Kirby, there's no doubt in my mind that they are a worse off team. So it's like, I think that Fran Kirby has the ability at the club level to carry great teams like Chelsea and help them win trophies. She is a difference maker, and she's going to continue to do great things for not only Chelsea, but also for England as well. I guess the one thing that she doesn't quite have going for her, at least from what I've seen at the international stage, is I don't really recall her having a ton of prolific international performances, at least in recent memory. Then again, disclaimer here, I don't follow the English women's national team nearly as much as I probably should, so take that claim with a grain of salt. But if Fran Kirby was in the top 10 for this list, I wouldn't have had any problems with that because she's been playing lights out this entire season. So something to keep in mind. If you guys have thoughts on that, feel free to jump down in the comments below. It's really cool to see Tobin Heath at 13 because it's like the further along in Tobin's in her career that Tobin Heath gets, the more I'm like, her career's coming to an end. But then again, it's like she keeps climbing the ranks and lists like this and keeps playing lights out and keeps playing better and better. So I'm like, maybe this whole aging thing is good for Tobin because she just keeps playing better as time goes on. So I thought it was really cool to see her in the 13th spot. Do I think she deserved to be there? Absolutely. Before she got injured while playing for United, she was playing lights out for them and was the difference maker. Like without Tobin Heath, United are a completely different team that are lacking a lot of creativity and scoring. So there's no question in my mind that she is a difference maker, and she's also the same at the international stage as well. She tears up pretty much any defense she faces, and to boot, she's really, really smart with the high press that Vlaco likes to use. She is the key piece in that, and she did the same for Casey Stoney. Casey Stoney likes to do that high press, at least to some extent, and Tobin Heath was really valuable in that respect too. So I am super pumped to see Tobin Heath at 13. One peculiar thing in the top 20 list that I've noticed is I'm not sure Roosevelt should be at the 15th spot. I don't necessarily have a problem with her being in the top 20. However, her being in the 15th spot as of right now, I'm not too convinced. Having said that, she's been playing really, really well internationally for a while now, and she's only going to climb higher and higher in the list as time goes on, keeping in mind that she's only 25 years old. But I don't think her performances of City, whether or not it's her fault or not, because I would argue Gareth Taylor doesn't really use her where she should be playing, but she hasn't exactly performed great at a club level to be, in my mind, at least in the top 20 of this list. At the international stage, no question. She is one of the world's best, but for club play as of right now, today, as this list is coming out, I'm not so sure she should be at 15. Should she be in the top 50 list? Of course. Should she be in the top 25? Of course. But at 15, I think it might be a little high just as of right now. If she was dominating at City alongside teammate Samios in the midfield, then I would say, without a doubt, no question. Some other players in the top 20. Ji So-yoon, I was a little surprised to see in the top 20. Now, I know she's a big piece of Chelsea. It's just, I think there are more deserving players behind Ji So-yoon than, I'm trying to think of a good way to put this. I don't think Ji So-yoon should be 18th. I think she should belong in the 20 to 30 range. Reason being is because when I look at this list between 20 and 30, I can see a couple of players where I'm like, okay, it would probably be more merited if they were in the top 20, but there's it's no disrespect to Ji So-yoon. She is one of the world's best. She plays great for Chelsea. She is one of the best facilitating midfielders in the world. It's just, I think there are slightly better options that might have gotten snubbed in that respect. So, do I have an extremely strong statistical argument for that? Not really. This is kind of all doing the eyeball test and just what I've observed in the WSL as the season's gone on. She's had a great season. It's just, I don't know if it's one that merits her really being in the top 20 as of right now. So, kind of going through the 20 through 30 range now after going through 10 through 20. 20 through 30 was really interesting to me overall. I don't really have a ton of problems with it. It's just where you kind of transition. It's like to players that are more so in Spain, which I think some of these players could have been in the top 20 as well, and maybe that's where my argument in Ji So-yoon kind of comes in handy. mainly Lika Martins and Asisat Oshola. They have been playing out of their minds for Barcelona this year. For those of you who don't know, the last I checked, Barcelona has scored over 80 plus goals in La Liga this season and has only given up like 3, if I'm not mistaken. So they are a monster of a team that's absolutely dominating La Liga, and Asisat Oshola and Lika Martins are a huge part of that. With how well they have been playing for their club, that's almost enough for me to just say, yeah, they should be in the top 25. Like, it's insane. When your goal difference is plus 70 and higher, like that your whole team is doing something right. And I think that with those two players being a big part of that, it merits an argument for them to be made to be in the top 25. I think the argument for Lika Martins might be a little stronger because she performs well at the Netherlands international stage. Asisat Oshola, I don't know. I basically know nothing about the Nigeria international team or how much they play, so it's hard for me to make the argument when I haven't seen enough of her international play. However, you can't deny that she scores a ton of goals on a Barcelona team that's just absolutely dominating La Liga, and it deserves to be recognized. So that's also something else to keep in mind. Last final thoughts before I kind of wrap up this topic here. Seeing Abby Kemper in the top 30 makes my heart sing, honestly. I think Abby Kemper is another player that's gone under the radar and underrated for a really, really long time. Despite her being 27, she's starting to get into her prime with the US Women's national team and with Manchester City. I think she's the future, and she's going to be one of the world's best for years to come. I expect her to actually probably shoot up to be in the top 15 within the next few years because she is going to take on a whole lot of responsibility within that time. And I think she's going to handle it to perfection and perform really, really well. She's one of the best long passing defenders I think I've ever seen. Really, I mean, in the friendly against who was it, Colombia a couple months ago, she completed 95% of her passes in just the first half alone. So she facilitates a ton of play and can get the ball up the pitch quickly while also defend out of her mind and deliver good crosses. So there's a whole lot to like about Abby Kemper, and it's gone under the radar and unnoticed. But now I think as time goes on, she'll start to get more of that notoriety. And then lastly, Christian Endler of PSG, seeing another goalkeeper eclipse the top 30, or at least a goalkeeper in general. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Christian is the only goalkeeper in this list. Let me double check that real quick before I keep talking. But let's see here. Yep, it looks like she is the only keeper in the top 30. And in doing so, I think she is one of the best. I think she is the best keeper in the world. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. By her being in the top 30 and being at the highest in the entire top 50 list of goalkeepers, thereby implying that she is the best keeper in the world. And I have no qualms with that at all. She has played very, very well for PSG this season, who are currently leading Division 1 Feminine and are looking to dethrone Olympique Lyonnais for the first time in like at least half a decade. Olympique Lyonnais, I don't think, has lost in that league and just forever. I mean, they just lost the first match for the first time in 4 years in league play against PSG, ironically enough. And Christian Endler is no doubt a big, big part of that, and keeping her teams in the ball game, keeping clean sheets, being a leader for the back line, and being the voice for the squad. I have no problems with her being at 30. In fact, you could probably make a case she could be even higher on the list, but she is invaluable, and it's really, really cool to see her in the top 30 list, so I have no issues with that. All right, so I've kind of gone on this topic for a long time, but I'll leave you with this overall. I absolutely love this list. I think it was put very well together by ESPN FC, and it's probably one of the better lists I've seen in a while, so, but that's neither here nor there. I want to know what you guys think. What do you think of the top 50 list? Do you think there are other players who deserve to be in the top 10? Top 20, or in the top 50 in general? Is there anybody that you thought should have been in the top 50 that wasn't? What do you think? Feel free to jump down in the comments below and let me know whatever your thoughts are. All right, so let's get into what's next. So now that we've got a lot of the international news and updates kind of going on, I want to transition back into the FAWSL and specifically talk about Match Week 18 and all the glorious fixtures that are coming up this weekend. So the FAWSL is back on to more so of a normal schedule with all the games being played on Saturday and Sunday this weekend, which is kind of nice for us fans because then we can get on this cadence where we can all watch all the games. I'm being a little selfish in this case because I missed most of the games last week due to the fact that they are all taking place during the week, but that's neither here nor there. What's going to be on the docket this weekend? So on Saturday, March 27th, we've got Manchester United taking on West Ham's United. Right after that, we've got Tottenham Hotspur taking on Arsenal. Then, to round off the day, we've got Manchester City taking on Reading. The very next morning, waking up bright and early, no pun intended, because Brighton and Hove Albion are going to be playing Everton. I totally did that on accident. That's funny. They're going to be playing Brighton early on Sunday, March 28th, followed by Chelsea and Aston Villa. And then to round off the weekend play, it's going to be Birmingham City and Bristol City. The good news for all of you FAWSL fans, none of the games are overlapping each other this weekend. You can watch every single game if you want to, back to back to back, with the exception of maybe some games might run over into the others. For example, Tottenham and Arsenal might run into the City Reading game just a little bit, but at least you can watch the bulk of the game separately so you can get in on all the FAWSL action that you desire. Some big things to look forward to this weekend. It's going to be really interesting to see how United and Arsenal respond to the result from last weekend. Arsenal beat Man United by a scoreline of 2-0 and took a hold of their Champions League destiny. So we'll see how that goes. Both teams essentially have to keep winning in order to keep their Champions League hopes alive. I'm curious to see if City and Chelsea will continue their routes of a lot of these teams. City have been playing very, very well for like the last, as long as I can remember, the last few months. So I'm curious to see if they'll be able to continue their double-digit win streak in WSL play, which I'm sure they will given the circumstances. And last but not least, the relegation battle is heating up. Bristol City and Birmingham City are both teams that are in the bottom four, but Bristol City has been playing in good form lately and has slowly been kind of climbing out of that relegation spot. So I'm going to have my eyes on them this upcoming weekend as well. And then with Aston Villa and West Ham both playing against top 5 teams in Manchester United and Chelsea, I don't anticipate a good weekend being ahead for them. I think they'll both lose to those teams, considering they're both in the top 5, which gives Bristol City the opportunity to climb up more into the table and get away from relegation. So, with all of that in mind, what are my scoreline predictions for this weekend? Starting off with Manchester United and West Ham United, I've got Manchester United winning this one by a scoreline of 2 to West Ham's 0. The next match, Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal, I've got Arsenal beating Tottenham by a scoreline of 3-1, followed by Manchester City and Reading. I've got Manchester City beating Reading by a scoreline of 3-0, followed up by Brighton, Hove Albion, and Everton going into the next day. I've got Brighton tying Everton by a scoreline of 1-1, given the form that Brighton have been in as of late. Next, we've got Chelsea and Aston Villa. I've got Chelsea winning this one by a scoreline of 4 to Aston Villa's 0, given the fact that Chelsea are vying for the title. They've got a lot more to lose in this case. And then lastly, Birmingham City, Bristol City. This is actually my game of the week, ironically enough. I think this is going to be the most exciting match of the weekend, given the relegation situation I mentioned earlier. I've got Birmingham City losing to Bristol City by a scoreline of 1-2. I think Bristol City is going to come up with a massive 3 points and put Aston Villa and West Ham United in a very peculiar and uncomfortable situation when it comes to the relegation battle going forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know, what are your scoreline predictions for match week 18? Who do you think is going to end up losing? What predictions do you think I have that are just completely bonkers? Whatever you think, feel free to jump down in the comments below and let me know what you think. All right, so what else do we got for the episode? Sticking with the WSL this week, a massive broadcasting TV rights deal was signed and agreed upon between BBC, Sky Sports, and the WSL. So here's what happened. Essentially, Sky Sports and BBC are going to pay the WSL 8 million, I believe, pounds per year for the next 3 years for the rights to broadcast, I believe, 44 WSL games per season. So really, really exciting stuff. I'm going to refer to my notes. I want to make sure I don't get this wrong. BBC and Sky Sports have the right to show up to 44 matches. A minimum of 35 of them have to be screened across Sky Sports Main Event, Sky Sports Premier League, and Sky Sports Football. Some matches can also be shown simultaneously on Sky Sports Mix and Sky One. So this deal is going to run all the way up until the summer of 2024 when the WSL season is over. This deal is absolutely monumental for the FA, for the women's game in general. Some of the funds are going to go to the FA Women's Championship. Most of the funds are going to go to the FA Women's Super League. But overall, this is the biggest TV broadcasting deal for a women's professional league, I believe, in history, if I am not mistaken. £8 million per year. That is no small sum of money. To put it into context just a little bit, CBS, they have the broadcasting rights for the NWSL games. They only pay the NWSL 1.5 million, I believe it's pounds, if I'm translating that right, per year. So with the WSL getting a ginormous pay bump in terms of TV broadcasting rights, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what that means for the NWSL and also even Division 1 Arkema, the French league, to see if other big networks like CBS, like Sky Sports, like the BBC, all come in and pay big money for it. Because when you see that big of a bump, it's like, okay, that is an indicator. That is an indicator that people are paying attention to the women's game and wanting to see it in general and enjoy it. So that's, with more eyes, more attention means more money. And the NWSL is going to look over at the FA and say, hey, Sky Sports and BBC, they just paid $8 million. You're only giving us 1.5. Give us more money. They have the NWSL as an organization now has a little bit more leverage to do that. The same can be said for Division 1 Feminine. They have the leverage, or at least more leverage, in order to do that. So this deal not only has implications for the WSL and the women's game in general, but it also has implications for leagues, women's leagues around the world as well. More money in these leagues means more resources. More resources means more growth in the league, which is fantastic because then a lot of the players can sign professional contracts for more money. More money means the players are happy and they can start earning amazing wages that they deserve for being professional athletes. So this has a whole ton of implications. I think this is going to be a positive domino effect for the women's game in general. Time will tell to see how the NWSL and Division 1 Arkema respond, or any other leagues really around the world in terms of the women's game, and I can't wait to see it myself. So I want to know what you guys think about the TV deal. Like I said, I'm super pumped for it, but I want to know what you think. Whatever you feel free to jump down in the comments below and let me know what your thoughts are. Or I'll ask you this: if you had $8 million a year to spend, how would you use it to improve the leagues that you occupy? So for example, if you're Lisa Baird and you just signed a TV deal that'll give your league $8 million a year, how are you going to spend that money to grow the league? So I'm curious to see what your thoughts and answers are. Feel free to let me know down in the comments below. All right, so that about brings us to the end of the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is always, to bring you these women's soccer/football podcast episodes. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch and enjoy the fandom with me. I've been Bryce. This has been the women's soccer/football podcast. I hope to see you in the next episode. And as always, have a great day.